Hi everyone, I want to make an announcement first, and that is I've created a new video for VirtualSheetMusic, and this is on a pretty advanced technique. The subject is the saltando bowing or springing arpeggio bowing in the Mendelssohn Concerto. It's in the first movement, and you can find that video in my favorites. I won't go over that here, but it was for VirtualSheetMusic, and it's a response to a viewer question. So if you'd like to be involved in that process, you can post questions and I will make videos once a month from those questions. Okay, so this one is a response to that. And I also talk about the introductory passage in the Mendelssohn Concerto where you're shifting up and how to try and deal with intonation issues there. So that's the advanced portion of the subject that we're going to address now. So let's move on and talk about something that would be an intermediate technique for those of you that are at that stage. I had a teacher say to me once that when I was shifting downward, that I was letting the space here collapse as I was pulling the hand from my upper position to my lower position. And I'm going to ask you to think about that for a moment. Let's just go to third position on the A string. Let's start with a 1. When you shift down, you need to release some of the weight that you have holding the string down. Otherwise, your 1 will drag, you will feel tense, and you won't be able to be in control of the intonation when you arrive. So release weight. Now, I'm not saying that your finger has to stay exactly in the same shape. There can be a slight motion. It might even be the beginnings of your vibrato. But don't let it collapse. Okay, so you're going to go from third position to first position on a 1. Go back up. Do it on 2. Now you're into the string, and then there's this fuzzy quality, and when you arrive, you're back into the string. Do it on every finger, and just think about it. What's happening to your finger shape? The goal is to keep our hand positioning pretty much the same as we go up. Even as I go up higher, and my arm has to come around, I want to try and keep the curvature, at least from here to the end, as much as possible the same. Okay, so just something to think about. Shifting downward. Release the weight, shift effortlessly. The weight has to be released in both the fingertip and the thumb, by the way. Release, shift, then reapply. Okay, so there's the intermediate level of this very short video. Let's talk about something for either beginners or for teachers of beginners. And that is, say you have a student that is trying to get rid of the collapsed wrist, which is really common. Students always want to grab. So I've talked about making the letter V with your thumb and your first finger and making a thumb shelf and supporting it there, right? Let's see if I can show you that. Okay, so I end up putting my thumb, just as a general starting point, there's no set rule, but as a starting point, my thumb is across from my first fingernail, and I feel some shelf support from underneath here. And if I do that, I can play without a shoulder rest, without any trouble. But that's not the point of this video. If you use a shoulder rest, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. What my point is that if you want to be able to play with all 4 fingers, you want to set your hand so the balance is good for all 4, and you don't want to have this, or it's really crippling to the 4th finger. Now you'll see that with a lot of beginners, or fiddlers who don't want to even use their 4th finger, but if you're the type of fiddler that wants to play open strings with the 4, say you want to drone, you slide up to it, or you're doing Irish music and you need that 4 to do a roll, then this type of technique is probably important for you. So here's the trick. I want you to go up to position, up here, and put your thumb, the base of your thumb, on the wood, and then put your fingers down either on the D or the A string. Okay, so that you have a nice straight wrist. Now you might want to do this in front of a mirror, and then you want to have good curvature here. Okay. Now what you're going to see from this side is not exactly what we want when we're in first position, which is where the students are going to learn. So I need you to keep this straight, pull it back to first position, but I want you to fill that gap. See the hole right there? Don't go down to first and leave the hole. I want you to fill the gap. you're going to touch on both sides. So here's your arm, go down to first position, touch on both sides. So as you play a few measures, you might stop and look. Did you go back to this or do you feel this? Stop, go back up here, set your wrist. Just think of that as a little crutch, but then we're going to come off of it. So you just keep doing that and go back to playing in first position. And before you know it, that's going to become your new habit. It will take over as automatic execution because you've addressed it over and over and over. Okay, so there are 3 different things, different levels, but one of them is at the VirtualSheetMusic.com site, or on YouTube. If you go to my favorites, you can find it. Okay, so nice to see you. Hope you're all well. Keep practicing.